All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris, the Batman Statue Collector, and welcome back. Another amazing show today. We have a very, very special guest, and we have Danielle Smith from Nerdy Girl Comics. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. It's an honor to have you here. I first saw you on Instagram. Is that where most people know you from?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been on the show circuit for over a decade, but I've really kind of taken on this Instagram presence over the last couple of years.
It's amazing how many even like YouTubers that I talk to that they kind of started on Instagram and they got like a big following there.
And then
switched over, which is kind of crazy. Like I just started TikTok recently, and I did a room tour video, and it's almost to 1 million views in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh,
which is crazy. Yeah, and in 3 weeks time, I went from 95 or 54 followers to now 22.5K.
Oh my, that's amazing.
So it's just insane, like how some of those other social medias can really get attention.
Crossover, yeah. Sure.
It's pretty crazy. So like I mentioned, I found you on Instagram, a lot of amazing comic books and other material on that show or on that channel. But I did have some questions for you. And I kind of wanted to know how you first got involved in the comic book world.
So I do not come from comic books. When I met my boyfriend almost 20 years ago, he was selling comic books. And I was like, you do what? And you make money like doing this? And I was like almost dumbfounded. And then I went to my first San Diego Comic-Con and I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like they have like their own, I compare it to like an underground secret society, right? Where like you don't really know about it until you're in. But once you're in and you understand the culture, you understand the people. And then I was like, oh, dang, these sell for like real money. Okay, I'll start learning.
So did you start out primarily with just like individual issues, or did you start with CGC, or where, walk us kind of through that?
It kind of started with individual issues and like a lot of like buying, flipping, upgrading that, pouring that money into more expensive books, and just really reinvesting. Almost, I would say 80% of what was sold got reinvested, and it was just over and over and over again. And it was a lot of turn and burn.
And I know from previous things I've seen, you're not a big comic book reader, right? You're not a big comic book fan, but you got involved in the more of the investment side of things.
So for sure, I came in as an investor and I saw the lucrative side of it, but I still appreciate comic books for what they are, right? Like I've gotten a lot of flack for that recently. And I will read a couple comic books just to prove that I can read them. But I think comic books are meant to be enjoyed for their artwork too, right? Like some of those classic golden age covers, that artwork is second to none. And it also shares history. Like those golden age timelies and golden age DCs in the 1940s are telling you what was going on during World War II. They needed you to donate your books to burn drives because they needed to burn the paper. They needed to create heat. So it's bigger than just reading a comic book. You don't need to read one to understand the historical significance of them.
Absolutely. A friend of mine collects a lot of CGCs that are from that generation. And to see all of those neat World War II covers, it tells such a story. And it's something you don't see today at all. Like it's so unique for sure. Do you primarily focus on CGC?
Yeah, for sure. For me, doing the business that I do, where especially during COVID, almost all my business is online now. So to have a book already certified takes out the guessing game and takes out I'm saying it's a fine, but you think it's a VG. Like it takes out that middle of the road discrepancies.
I'm somebody that just got into CGCs over the last year or so. I had a collector that sent me one as a gift, and I was like, this is so cool. Because I'm an artist. I have an artist background. And that's why I love statue collecting, is because these are another form of art, really. But then the CGCs, the CGC spoke to me because you can actually display these. Like I have, I probably have 30 now in that year's time, and I'm really slow. I have collected mostly like Joker covers, and that's what I've been doing. Some modern covers, but some older covers as well.
Well, you picked the right character to collect. Like
it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know if you're familiar with the 3 Jokers that just came out, all those 12 covers. But I just got all of those in CGC. They were all by the same artist, and it's just so I have them all up on my wall displayed. But I'm not necessarily in it for the flip, but I do just appreciate the art of it, and that's why I love it. But it's nice to know that these things do hold their value over time. So that leads me into my second question. How can collecting comics or slabs be an investment in 2021?
So even going back to the last kind of bubble we had back in 2008 to 2010-ish, a lot of new money came into comic books because people were looking for something that was tangible and that was not an unsafe investment, right? The stock market was crazy. Comic books have historically, year over year, grown in value. So if you're choosing the right books, then it's usually a safe bet, right? Like if you go Amazing Fantasy 15, the origin and first appearance of Spider-Man, like Spider-Man is the character of still going today. I mean, you go back to Superman 1, Batman 1, where people will, instead of buying stocks or gold or silver, they'll put their money into comic books. And to some degree, they're starting to put it in video games, which is like a separate thing. But they want something that they can hold on to and they can say, you know what, not only is this a safe-ish investment, but I can display it and it looks cool. And when they have their friends over, they can talk about this cool piece that they just picked up.
Yeah, like you said, it's so much history in these books. I mean, not all of them, of course, but there's just so many that are so iconic that I'm sure that you've had in your possession over time, which is got to be pretty thrilling, I would think.
For sure, and it still gets exciting. Like I've owned probably 7 or 8 Action Ones over the last
oh my gosh, that's so
couple of decades. And every time I get one in, it's just as exciting as the first time. Like they are true pieces of history.
That's awesome. Well, I know you mentioned just a bit ago that you do read these from time to time. Do you have a favorite? Like, do you like Marvel or DC? Do you have a favorite hero that you enjoy?
I like Timely and Marvel all day. Their covers are just, and not to knock DC, because I know that they have a place in the collector universe, but I think that Marvel and Timely truly just the artwork on them, especially in the 1940s, because I'm like very much golden age. The artwork was just so great back then. I mean, Captain America fighting Hitler and the Nazis and Human Torch. And for me, it doesn't get much better.
That's awesome. Well, I'm somebody that I grew up with more of the DC stuff. I did read like Spider-Man and some others. But I like watching all the movies is what got me inspired to want to go back and read all of those Marvel books, even though I'm a big Batman fan. That's where my heart lies. But
Marvel shuts it down when it comes to movies.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they've just been incredible. If I didn't collect Batman, I'd be collecting Iron Man because I love Iron Man a lot because he's very much similar to Bruce Wayne, where they're both very similar characters
that like become like vigilante superheroes.
Yeah, that's right. Using their resources and things like that. But I did have a question about CGC. So I know that you collect mostly the Golden Age, like you said. What do you feel about like modern CGC? Do you feel like there's a place for those? Do you feel like those will in time hold value, or do you think there's so many right now that it's just not a great idea to invest in the moderns?
That's like a very loaded question for me. So I feel like very iconic issues like Spider-Man 300. Do I think it's worth $6,000+ today? No, that went up very fast. Do I think it's worth 4 to 5? Sure, of course. I have a couple of my own. But do I think that the modern stuff that's just being released where they're creating like, it's almost like a fake hype, right? Like they're releasing these 1 of 25 variants where they're making people go out and they're, from what I understand, in some cases, they're driving shop owners to charge, well, I had to buy 25 of this issue, so I'm going to price 1 at 25 times cover price because that's what I had to pay to get it. And they're creating this false bubble where do I think down the road it's going to be worth what you paid if you're paying $1,000 for a book that just came out a week ago? No, I don't. Do I think you can pour that money into a giant size X-Men one that is like an actual key issue from the 70s where they reintroduce the new X-Men team? Yes, that is smart. So I'll never knock what people want. Like, my biggest thing is collect what you like. But if you're doing this from an investment standpoint, then be smart with what you're buying. Like, don't go buy something just because it's the flavor of the week, because guess what? Next week, there will be a new flavor.
Absolutely. But there's so many parallels to what you're saying in the collecting community with statues, because I say the same thing: collect what you love, but at the same time, be smart with your purchases. Make sure it is something that you want, or if there are a lot of people that are flippers in this market, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that a lot of times these books hold a lot more value than the statues do, especially just because they're so much older and so much more iconic. For sure. I did have one other question about CGCs. So I have a couple of autographed CGCs, the yellow or the gold. I'm not sure.
Signature series. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think about those? Do you think those are a good investment to go there?
I think that there's definitely a market for them. For me personally, and I know that people will pay premiums for signature series. Like, there's a real market there. For me, I do not pay a premium for signature series because a lot of these artists are at shows and they sign everything. Like, you're paying $50, but guess what? So are another like 2,000 or 2,500 people that are paying that same amount. Now CGC is doing signature events every other week where they're bringing in 3 artists. So people are having things mass signed. So in my opinion, it loses some of the specialness of it and the uniqueness of it. Now, if you have like a Dicko signature, that's special. He didn't sign a ton of stuff. Or Carmine Infantino did not sign a ton. But if we're talking Donnie Cates or anyone else that's like a very modern artist, like, it's cool, but don't pay 2-3 times what a non-signed copy would go for, because they're out there.
And I've probably done that because I have my goal is to collect some of my favorite covers by my favorite artists, just so I have like that one. Like, I have a Jim Lee Hush that's signed by him that I love Jim Lee, so I wanted his signature. And
like, don't get that one twisted. Jim Lee will be the artist from the 90s. When we look back like 20 years from now, Jim Lee is like a different cup of tea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also have I have a Brian Boland signed Killing Joke, copy 1. So some of those, like those iconic covers that I love, and I love the artist, Lee Bermejo, some of those artists that I just want to have one signature by all of those guys.
That's cool.
So that's at least my goal. But thank you for answering about that, because I was curious if those are really worth it as much as the regular CGCs are. My next question is, you've broken many barriers as a female in a generally male-dominated hobby, which is just absolutely fantastic. What does it mean to you to be part of this community and to be a positive role model in the change that comes with that?
So it's very humbling, and it like warms my heart, if I'm being honest with you. With it comes a little shade. And I don't think people realize how hard it is to be a female in a male-dominated industry looking to take my seat at the table. And it's taken me a long time to go to shows and have people, because like previously I would go to a show and people wouldn't talk to me because I was a girl. I didn't know what I was talking about. And it wasn't until I started doing shows by myself where I would bring in the inventory and their choice was, will you get me, or we're not talking about a book that you want.
Right.
It wasn't until that happened when people started saying, well, okay, I guess she knows her stuff. Mm-hmm. And I guess I can do this. I mean, don't get it twisted. I'm definitely the tougher negotiator.
That's awesome.
It's cool for me because I love this hobby so much. Like, my heart is so sad from not having conventions last year.
Yeah.
Like, that fuels me. So for me, it's like very heartwarming and humbling.
Well, that's awesome. Well, it's so cool to see, I see it in the collecting community here in the statue world too, where, it's probably around 6 or 7% of like my group or my channel of female viewers and female interaction. And I just love that. Like, cause when I first started, there was hardly any, but I feel like now it's just becoming more comfortable where people are willing to come out and say, hey, I love this too, which is awesome.
So I did a claim sale on my Instagram page maybe 3 weeks ago or a month ago. And I was so happy to see females like claiming stuff from me. And then when I was getting invoices, I was like, this is awesome. I'm so happy that you got these. Cause like, I want them to understand you can collect too. It is not just a boys club anymore. It is an everybody club.
Absolutely it is. And
to be broken.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You did mention your Instagram. I just put a crawl on the bottom here. It's at nerdy_girl_comics. So definitely, please do me a favor and follow her there and check out all of her amazing stuff because it's incredible. So we've been talking a lot about slabs. And again, slabs is just another term for CGCs for people that might not know. But how do you go about acquiring them? How do you do it? And how do you recommend people go about getting them?
So I have a few different methods. I have a lot of old relationships with people. So I will still do deals with old customers. I've like now started having to like reach out to like people I sold stuff to over the years to say, hey, do you have anything you want to sell me? Because it's dry out here. I bid in all of the auctions. Like there's like 3 major auction houses. There's Heritage, Comic Link, and Certified Link, and Comic Link that all do like monthly or quarterly auctions. So I'll bid with all of them. I'm still on eBay looking, but eBay's a little weirder nowadays. I do a lot with people on Instagram. Like that's really become probably my biggest place of buying and selling just because it's such a great community of people.
And you are a dealer yourself. So if people are interested in getting books from you, they absolutely can.
Yeah, for sure. Send me your want list.
Which is fantastic. And thank you for mentioning those other places. Like I'm new enough that I don't like, I've just mostly done eBay. And I always wonder, like, are they always going to be legit or not? And I just don't know, you know?
I have the same issue sometimes, especially in video games. Like there's a lot of reseals out there. So it's really hard to buy. And when you're buying raw books on eBay, like it goes back to, it's this person's fine, but it's my VG or vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. It's just crazy. So I'm curious, is it the hunt or the selling that's the more exciting part of this for you?
That's so hard. It's both for different reasons. Like it's the hunt because I love finding it. And then it's the sale because I'm like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. What has been your most challenging hunt to date? Like, have you had this incredibly difficult thing to track down or?
Golden Age keys are so hard to find. Like there were a couple of really high grade Captain America 1s in the last rounds of auctions. And I have a 5.5 in my personal collection. And I'd like to upgrade it one day because I've owned really nice copies previously, but I wasn't in the same spot I am today where I could keep them. So I'm constantly looking for a nicer Cap 1.
That's awesome. That'd be cool. Well, I hope you find it. I hope you do. And I'm really glad you mentioned keys because that's my next question. What are key issues? So if you are out watching and you don't really know much about it, because I didn't know too much about it, I've learned a lot more since, but can you explain what key issues are and also what advice you could give us about collecting and selling these particular kinds of issues?
So a key issue is basically either an origin, a first appearance, or a first cover appearance. Like take Wonder Woman, for instance. That's a great one where All-Star 8 is her origin issue. Sensation 1 is where she appears on a cover for the first time. And then Wonder Woman 1 is her first solo series. So in order to complete the trifecta, you need all 3. Then like Action 1 is obviously origin of Superman. Detective 27 is your origin of Batman. Then you want to put together Soup 1, Bat 1, because you need to have the pairs. If you go into the Silver Age, some of the big keys of the Silver Age are Amazing Fantasy 15, which is origin and first Spider-Man, Journey into Mystery 83. My personal favorite Silver Age book is The Origin of Thor, who's become like ridiculous. A Fantastic Four 1, X-Men 1. Fantastic 48 is super sought after right now because it's Silver Surfer. It's for Silver Surfer. Hulk 181 is your origin of Wolverine. That's a little debatable in the community, but it is.
I love that. First of all, it's amazing that you just have all these numbers in your head already. Like, it's just amazing that you like that. That tells you how invested and involved you are, and it tells you know your stuff, which is incredible. So again, what advice would you give collectors about buying and selling these? Do you feel like is there anything different buying and selling those versus buying a regular Golden Age book?
So I always tell people to do your market research. There are a lot of different avenues that you can go down to find values. GP Analysis is a subscription service you can pay, I think, $11 a month for, and it'll pull all of your data from you. If you're buying for resale, then know your profit margins. Like, okay, I know that I want to make 20% on this sale. So do your research before you pour money into something.
Absolutely. I think that's a smart advice for just about anything, right? I mean, just
don't go out and just blindly buy stuff. My other probably big advice is never go into debt unless you can afford to. Like, I know one time I heard someone say, like, max out your credit cards to buy video games. I would never tell somebody to go into debt on a whim.
Have you ever bought a book and maybe you spent so much money that you were like sweating at night because you were kind of worried about it? Like, have you ever done that?
Yeah. So years ago, I'm sorry, my MacBook's going to die. So I'm just asking my daughter to bring me a charger.
That's no problem. No problem.
So years ago, in the way, way, way beginning, we won a Marvel 1.9.0. And it was like, holy shit. I was pregnant. Like, we had no plan how to pay for this book. Like, we'd already bought and sold some stuff, and we had a little bit of money, but we did not know what we were going to do. We were going to go on time payments and have to just hustle and sell a whole bunch of stuff to pay for this.
Was it like tens of thousands of dollars?
It was over 100,000.
Oh my God.
And it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, Heritage is who we went it through. And fortunately, they offer time payments. So another dealer from another auction house knew that we had won this book and reached out, and they're like, hey, do you want to flip this and make a quick profit? And I want to say we made like 30 grand or something at the time.
Great. Yeah.
And for us, it was like, great. We're 21 and 22. I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's like, we will take it.
Yeah, now, all these light bulbs are starting to go off in your head too, I would imagine at that point.
Oh yeah, at that point it was like, oh, this is like legit, hella lucrative. We're doing the damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so cool, man. And I can imagine that your stomach was probably in knots at that point, but knowing that it turned out so well, that's just fantastic.
Oh, that's what's an understatement. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this book went on to be upgraded to a 9.4. Wow. And it's Marvel 1 that just sold a couple months ago for over $1 million.
Oh my gosh. So did they just repress it? Is that how it got upgraded? Did they just repress? Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Wow, that is exciting. Well, congratulations. That's what a cool way to start. That's awesome. So we talked about a good investment there. Have you ever lost big money on an investment?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I have this business model where I will partner with people. And I will put up 100% of the money and split half the profits evenly. And it's something we've done for almost 20 years. Wow. And for a while, we were in business with someone who was constantly bringing deals we thought were good, but some of them were blind buys. So for sure, there were some big losses. I had an Eerie 1, which is a horror book. It's like the first ever big horror book. And it was supposed to be a 9.0 and somehow got damaged in the mail, and it ended up grading only a 4.0. So it went from being like a $20,000 book to like a $4,000 book.
Oh, wow. That hurts. But again, it goes back to, don't invest if you can't cover it. It's like, be smart, know your risks. And
I think you need to lose sometimes, right? Because if you win all the time, you don't appreciate the wins. So you need some losses to counteract just to keep yourself humble and balanced.
Absolutely. That's very, very good advice. Absolutely. Have you collected any specific pieces over the years that you still have and you don't want to let go of?
Yeah, I have a Journey into Mystery 83 9-0.
Nice.
And that's like my book. I've had to like sell stuff and raise money, and I've let a lot of stuff go that I don't want to let go of. But that is my keeper.
Nice. Have you ever sold something and then bought it back?
Yes. Usually I'll sell it and then buy back in a higher grade.
Nice. I've done that with statues. Like there's one statue that I bought. I think I've bought it 4 different times, like bought and sold it because I missed it, or like I want it, or the value is better. It's funny that we do that sometimes. That's funny. Do you have a book Grail that you personally want for yourself that has eluded you so far?
So it hasn't eluded me so far. I have a book that I sold that I would love to have back, and it's PEP 34. It's just a great Archie cover. It's one of those like World War II Nazi covers, and those World War II covers in the Archie run are very rare. It's like a very small run of books. So I would like a PEP 34 back. I had an 8.5 and I sold it.
Nice. So would you get higher than an 8.5 then if you bought it back?
At least an 8.5 if I'm getting it back.
That's awesome. I figured so. I also know that you do mystery boxes. Can you tell us a little bit about those and how people could obtain one if they want one?
So I started doing mystery boxes about a year ago, and I did it as a way to connect with more people in the hobby and the community, because a lot of people are like, I can't afford your stuff. Like, I love your page. I love what you're doing. But reality is, like, I can't afford most of what you're putting up. And I'm like, well, I think mystery boxes would be really fun. And I started doing them, and Franchise Kicks, who's another like big YouTube guy, picked one up, and it really kind of put me front and center for mystery boxes. And so now I do them maybe every 2 or 3 months. I don't always plan when I'm going to drop them. I'm like, okay, maybe we should drop one now. I always have a couple of prizes. It's usually She-Hulk ones. It's kind of what I'm known for with my mystery boxes are She-Hulk ones. I do Wolverine ones. And I have some 9.6 She-Hulk ones, and I'll be like, all right, every 20 or 25 boxes, I'll include one. So yeah, you have to watch my page and you have to pay close attention, because I never announce before I'm going to do it most of the time. And I'm just like, all right, box drop is here. Claim them before they're gone.
Well, that's awesome. Well, you've definitely inspired me. I just recently decided to do something similar myself, where I've got some of my swag and stuff and some old comics. And then every once in a while, somebody will randomly get a CGC, and so I'm really excited about doing something like that. I think a lot of collectors would love that.
I think it's fun. It gives people something to look forward to. I think the one thing, which you'll know too once you start doing them, is people don't always understand the thought and time that goes into creating them.
Yeah, because you have to have a lot of times stuff made, or get your resources of you have to get these things in first. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned YouTube just a second ago. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. I have Nerdy Girl Comics on YouTube also. I'll be super forthcoming. I am not very good at being consistent on YouTube. It's one of the things that I want to hold myself to in 2021 is like every week doing like a Throwback Thursday video. So give me a couple weeks and I am planning to come back.
Well, that's awesome. Well, the thing about YouTube is it does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of time, editing and everything else. So I know you're busy with Instagram, and obviously your business probably takes up, because that's what you do for a living, right?
This is it. Live and breathe it.
Yeah. So like the YouTube stuff's kind of like a hobby really at that point.
Yeah, but I feel like it's another way to connect with people.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. That's the best thing. That's why I do this.
Right.
I just randomly 4 years ago put my collection on thinking maybe some people would like it, maybe 100 people.
So cool.
We just crossed 20K today, actually, which is
congratulations.
Amazing. But it's just amazing to all the people that the community we've created together. It's just so much fun, and being able to interact. And like you said, with the conventions, that's a lot of fun where you've probably been able to do that. And I know you miss it.
Oh my gosh. I have like a hole in my heart. Like, conventions truly drive me. They're exhausting, especially the big shows. Like, it's like 5 days of nonstop. And by Sunday, I'm like, no one talk to me. Don't look at me. I'm watching my booth with coffee. I have nothing to say to you. Yeah. But it drives us.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I live in Kansas, and I don't even have a comic book shop in my town. So I know it sucks. I know. But the closest one is 3 hours. And that's in Kansas. God. That's in Kansas City. I'm right in the middle of the state. And so it's been so important to me to connect this way through other people, because I don't get to experience, and that's like order something on Amazon or something. I don't get
the conventions.
Yeah, I plan at Comic-Con in Kansas City. I've been I think I've gone 4 years with the press pass. So it's really, really been fun to cover that event. And I love it. Of course, it got canceled this last year, and it was supposed to be next month, or in March, but then they just bumped it back to August. So who knows if it'll happen in August, but I'm just so excited to finally do that. I was supposed to go to New York Comic-Con last year also.
New York Comic-Con is a beast.
That's what I've heard.
The first year.
Yeah, it's crazy. And my ultimate goal is I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, and that's the one I really want to go to.
So I love San Diego Comic-Con because I love the city, but I literally hide in my booth the entire time. Like, I get in, and some days I will hold it and not even use the bathroom, because you are like sardines in that convention floor. And I just walk around and I'm like, please don't touch me.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's just nuts. I've heard New York can be like that too, but I know it's a little smaller, obviously. But
it's amazing, the atmosphere and the energy and just the city itself. It's really fun, if you've ever been to San Diego, to see it before Comic-Con and then watch it transform for Comic-Con, because like all the restaurants make like menus and drinks, and there's nothing else like it.
It's awesome. Everybody gets to geek out for sure. That's awesome. Well, I have one final question for you. So what is your maybe one tip or advice for the new collector that's just getting into CGC? What would you recommend? What tips would you give them?
Have fun first. If you're coming in through modern books, you definitely don't want mid-grade, because they're not going to hold any value. Modern books, you only want in high grade.
Would you say 9.8 or higher?
9.8, maybe 9.6, depending on the book. I think the exception to that rule is Spidey 300, which I was looking up price points a couple of days ago and realized that in 4.0, that book is selling for like $300.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But it's Venom, and I understand it. He's super iconic. And it's such a classic cover. Buy what you love, have fun with it. Know if you're doing this for flipping purposes, to know what you want to make and your profit margins. Like I said, don't ever go into debt to do this. It's not worth it. And it could like destroy your mental health, which is so important right now. And I guess just really buy what you love. Absolutely.
And I'm glad you brought up the stress, because we talk a lot about stress and mental health. At least I do. I'm a counselor in my real life. So that's what I do. I'm an elementary school counselor. And, we talk about stress on the channel a lot, because these things cost so much. I mean, these statues cost thousands of dollars that I have in my collection, and people get stressed because they want everything. And I always tell them to try to focus their attention on, on a certain thing that they love or that they want to collect. Because if you collect everything, you can go crazy. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Like, be focused, pick a main character that you want to collect and start there. And then, you know what, if you want to branch off after you've dipped your toes and figure out, okay, well, now I want to go to Avengers or Fantastic Four, but know your market first. Don't feel like you need to buy everything either. Go slow. It's okay.
Absolutely. Well, it's very, very good advice. I've learned definitely some new things tonight. And I can't thank you enough for being here. This was so much fun.
And if you ever have questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
That's awesome. I will do that. And also, if you want to do that as well, definitely check her out at Nerdy Girl Comics on YouTube. Give her a sub. Tell her the BSC sent you. And also definitely follow her on Instagram. Is there any other social media that you do?
That's it. I have a Facebook page, but I primarily am an Instagram girl.
Okay. I love that. And again, just thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I would love to have you on the channel sometime in the future if you're ever interested.
Heck yes.
We're dabbling into some like comic book content. We're doing some live comic book shows and things like that. So I would love to have you as a guest maybe down the road. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And definitely, again, check out Danielle's Nerdy Girl Comics on Instagram. And we'll see you next time right here in the Bat Cave. Good night, everybody.